The Spot Track Podcast, talking sports contracts, the salary cap, and business of sports.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Spot Track Podcast, presented by Morgan Stanley Global Sports and Entertainment. I'm Kevin Sylvester, along with Paul Peck and the founder of SpotTrack.com, Mike Giannetti. By the way, Morgan Stanley Global Sports and Entertainment empowers professional athletes and entertainers with knowledge needed to make informed decisions about their finances and wealth. More on that in a second, Paul. Learn more visiting MorganStanley.com/GSE, Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, LLC, member SIPC. Oh, boy, someone from Morgan Stanley should have told Kevin Durant not to play.
Yeah.
Right? That's an informed decision on his finances and wealth.
That's right, on his future.
A lot to think about now.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot to get into. I mean, I had this whole other show written, and now we're going to try to, intertwine what happened last night with what we're going to talk about today, but it's hard not to start there, right?
It's hard not to start with arguably the best player in the NBA going into free agency now, not being able to play next year.
Let me put it this way. I threw a tweet out yesterday afternoon, which was totally inverse to this situation, right? My thinking was, what if Kevin Durant comes back, Game 5, Game 6, Game 7,
and wins
this thing?
Right.
There's no financial benefit for him. None.
To leave.
No matter what. If he comes back and is just murders Toronto and wins this title for Golden State and steals this thing, right? He's still making $38.15 million next year. There's just no one. You know what I mean? This isn't Joe Flacco winning the Super Bowl and gaining an extra $40 million, which is what happened, right? That happens in baseball. You have some guy have a murder postseason, and all of a sudden he's making $150
Carlos
million.
Beltran's like one of the first examples of that.
Perfect.
Right.
Perfect.
I know, I couldn't resist.
But all of these other sports, there's this whole other thing in the postseason where if you kind of show up, even if you were nothing in the regular season, if you sort of show up for 2 weeks, you can make a ton of money off it. There's no financial gain for Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Kawhi Leonard. They know exactly what they're going to make. And that's sort of the conversation I wanted to have today was this whole max contracts, slotted max contracts in the NBA, how they're based on a percentage of the cap. And if you're worth anything, you know exactly what you're going to make, and there's no negotiation.
All right. Well, we'll put a small pin in Kawhi Leonard and come back in Irving. We'll come back to them in a second.
Yeah, we can actually hold out on them for a while. We'll do a whole free agent precursor in the next 2 weeks because there's going to be so much to talk about.
But I want to say this about Kevin Durant.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So I was in Canada for the Canadian Open and watching TSN's coverage. And Chris Bosch was a commentator with James Duthie, who does hockey.
He's pretty good, right, Bosch?
Yeah, he's very good.
He's good.
Very good. Our friend Jack Armstrong, too. Got a chance to watch Jack a lot.
Love
who's
Jack.
Great. Former Niagara University coach. I actually announced I was the play-by-play man on the very first game Jack was ever a color commentator for in basketball.
Very nice. You're the one that got him golf and running?
Yeah, but he didn't take me with him to the NBA. Damn it, Jack.
No, he did not.
Unbelievable. Anyhow, Chris Bosch, they were talking about Kevin Durant and whether he's going to practice or not, and even play. Mm-hmm. And he said, look it, strains, you push it, they become tears. Yeah. And it'd be he just said, it'd be a bad business decision to play. And damn if he wasn't right. All the way around, he just said, he's talking about calves, and people are like, oh, come on, it's a calf. And he goes, hey, guys, if you all the weight you put on your calf, you ever had a calf, it's a very serious injury, and serious strains become tears rather quickly, and that's exactly what happened to Kevin Durant. Now, afterwards, I told you so, I told you whatever, and you got to imagine the pressure for Kevin Durant to play in this game. Did Kevin Durant need to play in the game? I mean, he won titles. He's about to become a free agent. The smart move
they wouldn't be great players if they didn't have the desire to do that. And everything you're saying makes perfect sense from a smart business decision. But it's the NBA Finals, and he's the greatest player in the league. And if he can get out there and do something or play close to his level, you would want every great player to do that. I think there would be more backlash negatively if it came out that he could have played and chose not to because it would be a smart business decision.
Backlash from whom?
Twitter.
The public, I think, in general, and the fans, whatever, whether that means anything or not, and I don't think it means a whole lot, but I don't, I give him a ton of credit and he looked pretty good early in the game.
Yes, he did.
He did not look like he was a hampered Kevin Durant.
He was being very smart about it.
Sure.
He was hanging on the 3-point line. He was picking his spots, and then the first time he went to do that juke, it was done. I mean, somebody probably told him that, and he just got into it, got into the competitive spirit, and tried to do too much. It's awful. It was awful to watch.
Yes.
Let's say this real quick, because we are sitting here in Buffalo, and we have something in common with last night's game. Okay, the fans that cheered and clapped and screamed and laughed when he got hurt, and then as he starts to walk off, it's awful. That's going to happen everywhere.
Everywhere.
And it happened here. When Tom Brady's knee got destroyed by a Buffalo Bill, it happened here. So we're victims of it. Any major sporting event right now in this generation, you're going to see that.
It's also an initial impulsive sort of immediate reaction, too.
Yes.
And I think, the first 5 seconds is different than seconds 5 through 30 when people start to realize exactly what had happened. And I think there's been way too much said or critical of the Toronto fans for that. Like you said, Mike, every fan base is going to do that. Frankly, some fan bases are cheered and praised for the way they act like that.
Listen, this is the most polite country in the world.
That's right. You're right. You're right. So if it's there, it's going to trickle up for sure.
Yeah. They're probably going, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Right?
One more point on this, because now this is sort of the second iteration of maybe a fan experience in this series, right? You had the investor push Kyle Lowry. Yeah. Can we give these players some credit for their restraint?
Absolutely.
I mean, holy cow. This is now 2 sort of major issues with the fans, and these guys have been complete pros. Complete pros. Kyle Lowry could have been an absolute monster after that situation.
That's correct. And he said so.
Yes.
He said so in the press conference. He goes, now, had it not been at a court, in the NBA and the spotlight when my kids are watching, it would have been different. I think he basically said, like, anywhere else, this would have been a different outcome.
Yeah,
and he showed some constraint in that situation. Horrible for a team.
Can't believe it.
Right? That's just ridiculous for a part owner of the team.
What's he doing on courtside anyway?
Well, if he can afford to be a part owner, he can afford the courtside seats.
Isn't it better for the team to sell those things?
But it's not for listen, it's not Mark Cuban's an example, right? By the way, an owner getting involved, right? So it's not, but for him to actually shove the player. You should be catching the player. You shouldn't be shoving the player. You should be helping protect the player. And it's much like we're talking about with the fans, the Raptors, you should be appreciating the guy's effort to come back and play and appreciate the player he is, and while silently saying, okay, we got a better chance with him out. That's why everybody's cheering, like, okay, we've got a chance to win. They're not cheering that he's hurt. They're cheering because, okay, we've got a better chance to win.
That's right.
I think that's perhaps the most appropriate way to put it. So, but let's talk about the contract now for Kevin Durant. Does this put some onus on the Warriors to say, hey, look it, you know what? You went out and did this for us, for them to pay him? Because if I'm the Knicks, if I'm another team out there, the Clippers, am I paying Kevin Durant the contract I was going to offer him?
Let's start here.
In free agency.
Let's start here because. He was always going to be the X factor in a lot of this conversation going forward. I mean, look, we're only 20 days away from free agency, and it's going to get busy fast in terms of these big players. And he was always going to be one of these linchpin guys. Was he going to go 4 years max contract somewhere? Was that going to? Do you think that was his next step?
Sure,
just to max out in New York or in Brooklyn or in LA. Or was he going to stay on his 1+1 deals? Max.
I think he's going to go somewhere. Option. Max, be the man, get more endorsement money.
Be the central figure.
Absolutely.
The LeBron contract in Los Angeles.
Sure.
Okay.
Because I think he planned on winning again, and what more do you got to do in Golden State?
Well, there's there's 2 scenarios here that I can throw at you. He's probably, if that's still on the table, if New York is still willing to do that, we'll take the first year off because that's probably going to have to happen now.
Absolutely.
Right? So you got to do the 4 years now, right? You can't do a 1-and-1.
No,
with an ACL injury, you've got to financially, lock yourself in, because who knows? Who knows if he can't come back to this? So if New York's, maybe air quotations dumb enough to give him a 4-year guaranteed contract right now, you got to do that.
You misspoke, Mike, but it made me think a little bit. You said ACL, which it's not. It's Achilles.
Right, Achilles.
Right.
Is it worse?
That's what I'm thinking.
Because it's lower,
I think it's worse. I think the way guys come back from ACLs now, with the way the medical community is, first off, the rehab is shorter.
Yeah.
Guys generally come back. The Achilles, I think, as you look across sports and you've seen guys who have torn Achilles, it affects their speed. There's no question about that. I wonder if it sounds terrible, and I don't want it to mean that way. An ACL would have been a better injury for Kevin Durant.
Sure. I actually had my ACL replaced already, just as preventative, like guys with the pitchers when they're in high school.
You get better after anyway, don't you?
Yeah, that's right.
It's like Rookie of the Year. Tie me up.
If he can't move as well as he does now, is he the same player when he comes back?
Well, none of us can speak to that, but that's what I mean from a contractual standpoint. You take as many years as somebody's willing to give you, right? I mean, if somebody's willing to give you 4 years max still right now, you do it. You probably don't even care what team it is right now, because you're right. It's probably a long road back for this guy. He's 30. He's unorthodoxly 7 foot, right? I mean, this was always the concern, right? That this kind of freakish size, speed, mobility, flexibility was going to give out at some
There was a
point.
thought that flashed through my mind as you're watching those replays. You're like, man, his legs are kind of skinny for who he is.
Oh, my God.
You know?
Paul, take a look back at Texas. That 1 year at Texas, he was so skinny. He was crazily skinny coming into the draft, like to the point of, can he really handle, Shaquille O'Neal?
Right.
So he's come a long way from there.
The question was, could they handle him? Is ultimately how it went.
It certainly turned out well, but this is a big situation now. This is the opposite of what I was anticipating. Right. I was sort of, positively thinking he comes back, steals this championship, and we're talking about how he's worth double what he's going to make next year. Well, now where are we?
Right. Well, let me ask you this question: Does this not raise the price tag in a trade for Anthony Davis?
It certainly takes. Well, before you go there, is there a chance he just accepts his player option?
KD, you mean?
Yep. $31.5 million.
So be for 1 year. It's a rehab year,
right?
And
stays with Golden State.
Sure. That would probably be the.
Isn't that what's going to happen here?
That would that would be a smart move, right?
Would.
So, and frankly,
can Golden State afford it?
Huh?
Well, listen.
Can they afford $31.5 million?
The guy went out there, and maybe they take the option. They trade the contract, right? That's
trade
possible.
The rights.
Trade.
Oh, I like this.
Right? Trade the rights. They get something for him.
Well, here's the thing. The Wizards are going to be in a similar situation with John Wall. We shouldn't assume Durant's going to be out the whole year. It's not looking good, right?
No.
Same with
correct.
John Wall. It's not looking good. There is a cap credit. If you are guaranteed to miss a certain amount of games, percentage-wise, for the season, you will be credited so that you can handle the financial compensation that this essentially it's like an injured reserve salary.
And that would help them on the luxury tax?
That would help them everywhere. So it's even more pointing towards this is the way they go, right?
Sure. Yeah, right. I mean, it makes sense all the way around for everybody. So the Warriors get to say we're taking care of our guy.
That's right.
He went out there. Mm-hmm. He came back to try to help us win, and we're going to take care of him. You have him for the year. He's going to get paid. He's going to rehab. We're going to give him the best doctors in the world to get him to rehab, and then he'll be a free agent again.
The interesting
and it helps him out in the cap wise.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
Or they trade his rights.
Which
is actually a whole bigger deal.
Sure.
Because then that new team can actually give him more with the rights being transferred. It's a whole ball of wax.
The interesting thing to me is there another team that is willing, because of its Kevin Durant, willing to maybe go against what their logic would tell them, which is, let's wait and see how he comes back from this. Are they willing to make an aggressive move to get him?
Sure. The Knicks will do it, right?
And again, this is where doctors will come in, and the doctors will be able to be smart enough to say, here's what history tells us, percentage of his ability to come back to be who he was. But yes, you're right. To your point, there's going to be teams that will throw all logic out the window and say, normally we would never do this for a guy who's not going to play this year, but because it's him and because it's us, we'll do it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you want to get that team together. It's essentially what happened with the Lakers here, right? I mean, LeBron missed half the season. The season was an absolute bust, but they've got him for 3 more years.
Right.
Right.
But they didn't know he was going to miss half the season when they signed him. That's a much different dynamic.
I don't know.
No?
Do the Lakers still take him, knowing they've got him for the foreseeable future?
Of course they do.
Well, that's what the Knicks would be doing, right?
Yeah, because the Lakers could clearly see as he's getting older how he's changing as a player. So,
well, the Knicks probably do it because somebody else is willing to do it, right?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt they wouldn't.
I mean,
there's no doubt in my mind they wouldn't be the only team.
Brooklyn's going to do it. Oh, by the way, don't leave Toronto out of this conversation now. You can't. This team is ready, and if they can keep Kawhi and then use cap space to bring in one other player, well, you've got to be talking about this. This could be the team of the East.
Yeah, I was distracted in looking up recent players who have torn an Achilles. And, well, first of all, the Warriors don't have to look far. They look on their bench, DeMarcus Cousins.
Yeah.
Right? Tore his Achilles.
Yeah, and he's not well.
He's not nearly the player he was.
He's also not nearly the athletic level of player.
Hang on. No, hold on.
No?
When he was in Sacramento and New Orleans before, he was a force.
Even just before he left New Orleans, before he messed up that Achilles,
right.
He was an all-pro. He was right
Great
there.
player.
Yeah, he and Anthony Davis were really, really coming together, and it was kind of a bad situation that happened. But yeah, we're a year and a half.
Who are
now.
some of the other names?
Right?
Richard Sherman is one that comes up on the football side.
I'm going to go with
NBA guys.
Yeah, NBA guys, and perhaps the most significant that in the ballpark of Durant, or I should say Durant's in the ballpark of, would be Kobe. Remember Kobe Bryant tore his Achilles.
Oh, yeah.
Now, he's 34 when he did it in 2013. So he wasn't, he was 4 years older than Kevin Durant. And, he was still a dominant player.
He came back quickly, though, if I remember correctly. He came back early on that.
He came back early, and he over the next 3 years, this is what this is according to SB Nation.
Okay.
What happened to Bryant? He played 35 and 66 games in the next 3 years before retiring. Averaged just 19 points.
So it fell off.
Again, 4 years older, but Kobe, he was a dynamic player, right?
So how much did it have to do with the injury? How much did it have to do with him being 34? I think is one of the questions you're throwing out there.
I think a lot with the injury for sure.
It's a movement injury. It's a quickness injury. That's what Mike and I were talking about with the ACL thing. It's directly affects your ability to run fast, to run quick, to make quick moves.
I'll give you another. So a guy who made his living off of quick moves. And one of the greats of all time, one of the best dunkers of all, Dominique Wilkins.
Yep.
He tore his in 1992 at age 32, so closer to Durant here,
Durant's
right?
about to be 31 here, yeah.
Yes, and he came back to the same level after the torn Achilles. Yeah,
that's a pretty good comparison there, too.
That's a really good comparison.
So the next 2 years,
so long ago that the technology and the medical work is
better.
Much different.
Has to be.
He over the next 2 years following when he came back, after his 2 years back, he averaged 28 points per game. So it's doable if you look, but we're talking about it's like the micro. It's like the what was the surgery? Microfracture. Bruce Smith had it. Eric Swan had it.
Yep.
Neither, and there's a couple other players, but they're never the same.
No.
When they come back, that's where they crack the kneecap, hoping that the scar tissue in the recovery heals it. I'm just saying the Achilles to basketball might be the microfracture to football.
Could be.
Right? From the ACL and knee injuries. So we'll have to wait and see. Just, what? Devastating. One of the great players. Some regard him as the best player in the NBA. And to have that happen, to work all that work he put in to come back, I think people just thought he was just hanging out, right?
I think I'm more bummed about next year than this series.
Well, sure.
Really?
Right.
I mean, the longevity of this is going to be brutal. It really is. I mean, it takes a great name off the market, essentially. We think. Boy, wouldn't that be something?
If somebody actually signed him, went after him hard, or if he left, is what you're saying?
No, but the shockwaves. To me, the shockwaves here are incredible.
The trickle down is going to be unbelievable.
The Kawhi Leonard,
the Knicks had a plan for Durant and Kemba. If that's their plan, is the entire league scrambling right now?
Yes.
I mean, was there an 11 p.m. gunshot wound last
Right,
night?
because we don't know who
Right.
Durant may have already been plotting with to team up
right.
with.
Tampering
Nobody
was
was tampering.
happening. Oh, yeah.
Paul.
Oh,
Come
stop.
on.
He was probably texting them as he was walking back to the locker room.
We're still good, right?
You guys still have facts?
Did Kawhi Leonard's texts blow up too after that? I mean, Kawhi Leonard, free agent to be. I mean, and you said he knows the money he's going to make, and you brought out the great thing last week about the bonus money for Kawhi Leonard,
The signing bonus,
right?
yeah.
And the 15%. But perhaps
How in the world does he leave Canada?
I don't know.
Right, we talked about it in length last week. It's even more exaggerated now, right? I mean that 12-point run with
He's incredible.
4 minutes to go, that lifted the entire nation.
Correct.
We all collectively thought that he had just won that country the title in that 2-minute span. It was unbelievable. He was hitting everything from wherever he wanted.
Did you hear his quote when they're after?
It had to be the only quote. Right?
Well, no kidding, right? No, when they were going out for games 3 and 4, and the coach said in the locker room, "All right, let's go get one out west." He goes, "F that, let's get 2."
Yeah.
Like stuff you love to hear,
he's
right?
nasty, for
yeah,
sure.
he's a great player, nasty player.
Absolutely no emotion on the court.
Right.
I love that. I know a lot of people don't. I love that.
There's no emotion
I love
anywhere.
that. And I love it because I wonder when it's going to crack. Like, you know what I mean? Like Roger Federer almost never does anything, right? He hit a ball into the stands against Rafael Nadal. Angrily hit a ball into the stands. Like, that never happens.
I can't beat this guy in clay.
Are we going to have that moment with Kawhi? You know what I mean? Is it when they win? Is he going to drop to his knees and cry? I mean, there's got to be something, right? Something's got to give here. He's just an absolute statue out there.
Something's going to – I mean, what do you think's going to happen with him now? And does Durant affect this?
I don't know that these two were ever directly linked with free agency. And like I said, there's no monetary comparison. I mean –
But if you're the Knicks, are you now interested in Kawhi Leonard? How the hell could any team not be interested in Kawhi Leonard?
There's 30 teams. There's 30 teams that want him. Golden State included, by the way, right?
Sure.
I mean, let's talk about that. If they were in at all, what do they do? What if Golden State was in on Kevin Durant? I mean, nobody really talks about that because that's not fun conversation. But what if they had a chance to keep him? And now next year is completely gone, and now you were planning on bringing back Klay on a 2-year deal. You've got Steph for a couple more years. Draymond's on an expiring. You maybe had one more year. If you could keep Durant in fold, you had maybe one more year to really put this thing to the finish line.
Does it matter what happens in the next 2 games?
Do they blow it up now?
Does it matter what happens this year if they win?
If they win, are they done?
That's what I'm thinking.
Do they not sign Klay then?
They have a new arena.
Yeah, they've got to be pushing, right?
Yes,
yeah, but does that matter? I mean, they're the Warriors. It shouldn't matter, should it?
Yeah, they're the Warriors because of the collection of players.
But they're the Warriors because of the last 7 years.
I just wonder. I wonder how many regular season games Steph and Klay can win on their own.
A lot. I say a lot. They can win a lot.
Me too.
They're unbelievable players.
Yeah.
I still don't think Klay's as good a defender as you think he is, but they're both wonderful players.
You're crazy.
I still take Pippen as a defender.
He's the reason that Kawhi Leonard didn't score the last 2 minutes.
I will still take.
Mike's right about that.
You're crazy.
I will still take Pippen as a defender. I'm just saying.
It's close. It's for sure close.
I'll take Klay offensively. I'll take Pippen defensively.
I'd take either.
I take Kawhi Leonard over both of them. By the way. Now.
Yeah, that's right.
The way Kawhi plays both ends of the floor.
And I'm telling you,
incredible.
he's got some kind of quad injury. I'm telling you.
Yeah, there is something.
There's going to be some report after this is done, and we're going to be like, good God, what if he was 100%? You know what I mean?
Correct.
He's nuts.
I agree with you, because there are times you're like, where is he? Then all of a sudden he'll take over in those moments.
Without going into details, let's just focus on him. Because
by the way, I love the NBA. How do you not love the NBA right now?
Yeah, I wanted to sleep really badly last night. It was impossible. You're not turning that game off.
No way.
The NBA. I mean, I don't know if we call this the golden age of the NBA because I still
it's close.
I still like the mid '80s.
Boy, Bird Magic and those guys.
But there's like 12 legitimate all-stars right now. I mean, real all-stars right now.
But you have this is what I think right now in the NBA. I think you have great players in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
I think back in the '80s, early '90s, you had great teams.
Yes.
You had great franchises.
But this is a great team.
This team, this Warriors team fits there.
It's a top 3 team.
Sure.
And you've got what? Do you have 4 top 10 all-time players playing right now? Do you?
Well, we're including Durant, correct?
Durant, LeBron,
Curry,
Steph, for sure. Is there one? Kawhi's not there yet. All time, he's not there yet, longevity wise. You've got 3.
Well, number one to me is still, and by the way, Allen, who's the guy?
Ray Allen?
Ray Allen. Did you see the interview with Dan Patrick?
I did.
It was great.
Ray Allen likes Ray Allen, though.
Well, sure. There's a lot of NBA players like
you got
Ray
to
Allen.
kind of fizzle out that minutia there.
But he was asked LeBron or Michael Jordan. He said MJ, hands down. And he said, well, who's the better? MJ.
Yeah.
He just said MJ. I want to paraphrase this correctly, but MJ, what would he score now? He goes, he'd average 45 now.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Yeah. He goes, because back then, guys would hit you. Guys would knock you. You can't touch players now. And he's right.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Michael Jordan took a beating. That's why he started shooting from the outside. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, it's early on, he'd drive, he'd get pounded. And
it's very close, though. It's very close. Do you know what separates them from me, not to get down this road too far?
Sure.
It's that Kawhi mentality that MJ had. That's the link between Kawhi and MJ. I'm going to kill you tonight. I'm going to absolutely kill you tonight. We don't really see that from LeBron. LeBron's more of a kind of a teddy bear, a big, strong teddy bear at the end of the day.
I feel like I've seen him take games over with smoke coming out of his ears.
Last year in Cleveland, I thought he was a killer.
On a personal basis, LeBron can get fired up. But you never see LeBron get angry on the court. Angry. He'll come down the middle and knock somebody over, going to the hoop. But look,
except when J.R. Smith forgets to score.
Right.
All right, yeah. Most other people would have thrown him out of the arena.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
But if you watch the clips of MJ, back in those 90s, if he was just posting somebody up, he looked like he wanted to punch him in the face. That was MJ's just mentality. It's every play. I'm gonna crush you this play. Kawhi's got that. Kawhi, you can just see he's taking people on a personal level, one-on-one, and I love that. To me, that's the difference.
All right, but so you're saying top 10 all time.
LeBron,
of course. Steph Curry has to be because he's the best shooter ever.
Yeah, better than Ray Allen, right? I thought you were going there.
Oh no! Listen, are you kidding me?
No.
Nobody has ever shot the basketball better than Steph Curry shoots the basketball.
I think Clay's better than Ray Allen. I do.
At the end of his career, he will be considered a better shooter. I believe that.
Right?
Yes. Because I think overall they're better defenders.
It's a golden era right now.
Yeah, there's unbelievable players.
It's a golden era. Yes. Almost every night there's a must-see matchup.
I mean, if you want to go back in the eras,
we're not even talking Harden.
I mean, but if you're going top 10 guys back in the eras here, just to, and I'll Paul might agree with me on this. Bird and Magic clearly in there. Michael Jordan, of course, number one, and then do you throw Kobe in? Probably.
Sure.
And is Kareem there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right.
I think,
maybe those 5.
I think that.
Oscar,
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Oscar Robertson certainly
right.
could.
Yeah, he's up there.
Be an argument, but anyway, okay. So as far as this concerns contract-wise, it's going to make this thing more interesting because of slotted players.
Let's just say Kawhi's getting there, right? Kawhi's on his way. I mean, this could have been his 3rd title if he gets to the finish line.
Right. I still think they will, by the way.
Yeah, I think it's still in their hands.
Yeah.
I
think all that pressure to win at home. I think if they're going to win it, they're going to win it in Game 6.
Oof, that's a terrible way to close Oracle, but
I'm just saying. I think all the pressure to win on their home floor.
Yeah.
They didn't do it the other night.
Let's say he does it. Let's say Kawhi's got 35 and 12 in Oracle and they win the title. He's worth a heck of a lot more than $35 million.
Sure,
he
is.
Year, right?
Sure, it's $40 million player.
And it's let's just quickly have a quick roundtable about this. I mean, are the slotted contracts good for the sport, or would you rather have the randomness of baseball, the slight randomness of football, where you can really project yourself forward in a great championship run?
The money's so big, though, with these slotted contracts.
Does it matter?
Right?
Yeah. I don't think it matters.
I don't think it matters.
That deflates everything.
How
right?
big of a negative is the slotted
35
contract
versus
thing?
38?
Yeah,
well, to that point, back in the day, they paid MJ 40.
Right.
And everyone else is making like 18.
Right.
If that were the case now, how big would LeBron's contract in LA be right now? Would it be $60 million?
Right.
Yeah.
Probably,
make a
right?
Good point. Sure.
But what it also does is, I think the slotted contracts on the CBA, it gives teams like Milwaukee a chance to keep Giannis. Right, like we know what's coming down the road. We know we've got to pay him.
Yeah.
whether they do or not, maybe they'll ask Aaron Rodgers to pump some more money in the franchise.
Ridiculous.
But I'm just saying, they know what it is going to be. Yeah. Whereas in the past, like, this guy's...
Knowing is definitely a good thing.
Correct.
Because guys like me and obviously guys in the front office can sit there and really budget these things out. You can really put some spreadsheets together and make this happen 4 years down the road.
And it's for a player like Giannis to say, okay, I love it here.
It is.
And I can only make X amount. I'm going to do it.
Is it about keeping people? Do you
think
that's
so.
What this is about?
I think absolutely. Because, I think it's about keeping people.
Because here's the point I really wanted to get to, and we're gonna transition into hockey too here in a second. Careers are just getting smaller, and no more evident than last night, right? I mean, there's concern now with 31-year-old Kevin Durant for going forward. Just like these other sports we've talked about in football and baseball, 27, 28 is going to be that prime. That's the prime age for all these sports, basketball included now.
Particularly with them starting earlier.
Way earlier.
Right.
Yeah, and maybe the one and done even goes away in the next 2 years, so it could be even earlier. So if that's the case, and you're only making 25% of the cap in your second contract, if you're a superstar, are you missing out on $50 million in your prime? And then is it going to get to a point where you don't even see that 35% contract?
Well, that's up for...
Because that's coming, right?
That's up for the players in the next CBA to negotiate that, max contract to a lower age.
I'm worried. Yes.
Right?
Or up the mid percentages. Right? Get them closer. Get them closer.
Get them more money earlier.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Because players
it's
are coming.
Happen. There's got to be a middle class shift here with all these sports because the owners are going to start putting their foot down. They're going to.
They're going to start. Well, they're just going to keep going with the younger players.
Well, we don't want to see what's happening in football. We don't want to see this.
I mean, where there's no middle class.
Well, not so much that, but the middle class is so cheap right now that there's no reason to pay the upper class.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we don't want that in basketball. We love knowing Steph Curry makes $45 million a year. I think it just makes him cooler on the court, right? I mean, that he's got these ridiculous numbers tied to him.
But the argument for the owner, if I'm the owners, the argument I would have is, look, I'm paying you a lot of money.
Yeah.
All right. Handsomely. We're giving you the stage to make more money in endorsements, sneaker contracts, all those other things. That is the venue for it. Right? I mean,
yes.
Steph Curry's not Under Armour without being on the court and performing. Playing great, like he'll argue, I made this my own opportunity, but we've given you the stage here. So that's the argument against that.
Okay.
Right? So, but I do think, yes, if you want to pay players in their prime, then the max needs to be a lower age, and yes, the middling, if you will.
Yeah, I think all these sports need to align to this new prime age of 27, 28. It's going to have to happen with these next iteration of CBAs. Let's talk hockey here, because it's been more than a few times that we've talked about these 8-year contracts in the NHL. And I don't want to get too far into this, but this is the only question I want to talk about, and let's see how far it goes. How do we get rid of them? That's it. How do we get rid of them? How do we get everyone to agree? I mean, it's a big enchilada, because the reason they're 8 years is because salary caps are divided by the length of the contract.
Sure,
you want to be able to keep the salary caps low by spreading these contracts out longer. Do we just have to raise the cap a crazy amount like the NBA did? I mean, they jumped like $25 million 3 years ago.
Well, the reason they went to so let's go back in history. You mentioned paying Michael Jordan $40 million.
Yeah.
I want to say I remember Yager getting $40 in New York, and other teams, the small market teams said we can't compete with this. Mm-hmm. The Rangers were paying. I think they paid Bobby Holik $8 million. They were paying so much money out to players, and they didn't win, by the way. But teams are saying we can't compete with this. How do we compete against the Torontos, Montreal, New York, the teams at Boston that generate all this money? Oddly enough, Boston wasn't spending it when they were making it, right? They win now in our cap system, but they didn't before. But anyhow, how do we compete with keeping free agents when they can go make a gazillion elsewhere? And then fill in the rest with good players and pay them even more money. It was just an unfair system, if you will. So that's why they brought the cap in. But you're right. How do you get $8 million?
But we've got
8-year contracts.
We're here in Buffalo in a small market, and now the Sabres have 2 players that combine for $19 million a year.
Correct.
For the next 7 years, 8 years.
Right.
8 years.
They used to have a payroll of $19 million.
Are you saying they can't add $3 million a year to make that a 6-year deal? You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
they don't have the upfront cash to raise those salaries and lower the terms?
I don't know. Well, do they have?
That's all I'm asking here.
You
like
want
if Connor McDavid's making 12.5 and that's the most he could possibly make because of the percentage of the cap at the time, which I agree with. I think there should be a cap to that. But the cap's got to rise so that we can get these salaries higher so that we can make these contracts
It's been rising steadily.
Well, and the union has...
It has.
And the unions have the option every year to put a 5% escalator in, right?
Right.
But they always put that in before they know what the revenue numbers are. I mean, it's really...
shady. It's more
really
money in the owner's pockets.
It's a questionable system, frankly.
The players don't get near enough, that's for sure. They don't get near enough.
Right. But listen, the lockouts worked every time for the NHL.
For the owners.
It's worked for the owners.
Yes.
Correct. Players are being rewarded. Look, the cap has gone up. They've added a roster spot, so more players are getting NHL money. They shouldn't cry poor. There are franchises that lose. Matter of fact, I think there's rumors the Coyotes are being sold, and perhaps relocated. Who knows? But there are franchises that do not make as much money as others. There is a revenue sharing system in the NHL to bring everybody up there, and let's not forget you've had 2 expansion teams here, Vegas and now Seattle,
which are cash grabs,
$500 million in cash.
They're doing fine.
The problem the players have with that is, well, wait a second, they don't get any of that fee, but they do get 46 more.
They
46 more jobs, amongst the union. So,
but the cap's 83.
Which is I can't believe the cap's $83 million. I really can't.
Really?
I cannot believe it.
Because you don't think the league generates that kind of revenue?
That's correct. I just can't believe.
But everything you just said.
I know.
There's money coming everywhere.
I'm talking about seat revenue. Like, look at the NHL teams. They make a lot of money off of ticket.
Yeah.
Right? The individual teams.
Yeah.
Tickets are crazy expensive in the National Hockey
They're
League.
the one professional sport that relies on ticket revenue more than any other professional sport, right?
Well, the Canadian television deal put a lot of money in the coffers. So when Bell came in with $1 billion, I think. But they're the one sport whose American television deal is not that good.
Yep.
Right? I mean, NBC has it. NBC Sports Network has it. But it's not. I mean, the NHL Stanley Cup, not every game's on NBC.
It's crazy, right?
Right? It just tells you everything right there because the ratings aren't fantastic. It depends who's in there. So their television contract in the U.S. is not as strong as it is in Canada. I'm not sure about internationally. I think they have some rights because you have a lot of players international. So, I'm not saying they're not making money.
Yeah.
I just can't believe how fast how much the cap has grown in the last 10 years. Just remarkable to me.
So
it was like 30 some odd million 2 lockouts ago.
Why aren't we losing 8-year contracts then? If the cap has grown to your liking, okay? If you think it's ahead of where it should be right now, which is what you sort of sound like here.
And by the way, I think...
Then why are teams still committing themselves to 8-year contracts? Because there's 57 in the league right now.
Wow.
Because the players have the leverage. So let's look at the last 8-year contract.
The players want 8-year contracts?
Sure they do. And they want lockout protection in the 8 years.
But most of them don't. Most of them aren't getting signing bonuses.
But here's the thing: NHL contracts are guaranteed unless they're bought out, and then they get a 2/3 of it. So
they're guaranteed if they're playing, Kevin. There is a stoppage on salary. They
get paid. NHL players get paid and that's why trades are hard to do.
Of course,
they get paid. Some have lockout protection in their contracts. Right? So some will push for, hey, if there's a lockout, you still got to pay me. You got to pay me percentage of it there.
Mostly
I think Eichel's contract.
It's like unemployment mostly.
Yeah, I think Eichel's contract has some lockout protection in there. I would bet Skinner's, who also just signed with Buffalo, as you mentioned, I bet he has some lockout protection also.
Okay, so let's assume the players do want this because...
And by the way, he had all the leverage. So what I'm saying, players have leverage there. If you're a great player, you have the leverage before going to free agency. It's going to be a max contract, so he doesn't have to worry about it for the next 8 years.
It was going to be 7, though.
I'm just telling you. 8 years, they want that. I don't have to worry about it for 8 years.
Okay.
Even though the money decreases.
You say right, a lot.
Right?
You say the players want it. I'll agree with that. Does the league want this?
Oh, no. Are you kidding me?
Then what are we doing here?
Owners wouldn't want an 8-year contract.
Then what are we doing
Because
here?
they found those 8-year...
If they've got all the leverage, if they've got all the negotiating
They don't
points,
have all the leverage.
But they do.
Well, hold on.
They clearly do. They're making so much more of this revenue than the players are right now.
But not every team is. Not every team is. The teams that like it are... There are...
But
listen, maybe the economics have changed.
Small teams are still signing 8-year deals.
Mike, maybe the economics have changed since I had looked at economics of it and saw the scale of revenue sharing. Like I used to see these numbers. And maybe it's changed a bit there. But the teams that made money... There was like a handful of teams that made most of the revenue in the National Hockey League. And it was Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, New York, and Chicago, Boston were in there. And after that, I got to tell you,
everybody else is kind of slim on the margin there.
Treading
right?
water. Some teams are treading water. Some teams lost. It was incredible how much money.
Do you think it's still about that?
Absolutely.
Do you think most of these small markets are just kind of breaking even?
I don't think Buffalo makes money.
Okay.
I don't think the Sabres make money.
Back to the TV point,
and
where that's how
mad market.
That's how all the other professional sports small markets can survive, because that influx of TV money that the NHL doesn't have as a part.
I don't think Nashville makes money. Right? It's hard to say, right? How does Nashville not make money? Where these teams they'll get the rights to the arena, or they own the arena, and so they can operate.
That's when they make
the other
money.
There, well, yes,
but
so I'm saying about hockey. So hockey-related revenues. There's this big argument. I remember the CBA, like, okay, well, listen, I'm going to sell to Spot Track, a spot in the corner in the arena.
They've inquired. Don't worry.
I'm sure they have, and so up in the corner, there's you have a permanent. So every concert, every other event there. But it's also there for hockey games, but they percentage that out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and they say, well, it's only, it's up there 365 days a year. It's only up there for, it's 47 times. If we do make the playoffs, we'll give you more. So they bring it out, it's like 10%.
I really wanted that circus audience, though. That's what I was banking.
Well, you probably were. I mean, that's what you're really paying for, right?
For.
Monster truck rallies in the Spot Track there. Right?
What
does the Bigfoot driver get in the salary cap? But I'm just saying.
Coming soon to SpotTrack.com, monster truck driver salaries.
Naming rights to the arena, those things are percentaged out, and I remember that being a big argument when it came to that. So that's where franchise and owners make money.
One last question to put a bow on this, because I like where you're going with it. If the cap was way bigger, over 100 right now, if it was, let's say it was 100 right now, 17 million more than it is today.
And by the way, there's a floor. Don't forget there's a floor and a ceiling.
Well,
right?
The floor is there because of what you're talking about.
Correct.
Because there are teams that would literally shut it down for 2 years if they could.
Yes.
There are.
Yes.
Let's say it's 100.
Okay.
Are you telling me you wouldn't have teams like Buffalo, teams like Arizona, teams like Florida try to bring in free agents on 3-year deals at $12 million?
Sure, there would be teams like
And wouldn't players prefer that? Wouldn't players prefer?
It's a lot like we talk about with
punch?
we talk about with the NFL. Are we moving towards a trend where the players are saying, "I want less term, because that gives me another chance to change teams, to up my value, to sign another contract"?
And not only does it do that, but it guarantees more movement, which has got to be better for the NHL, which has got to drive more revenue, get more eyes on it, get more people on Twitter talking about it.
Well,
it's got to be a better approach for this league right now.
Well, here's the...
Because I'm guessing 1,000 people already turned this podcast off because we're talking hockey right now. Let's be honest here.
I bet you're right.
It's just truth. But if we were talking about hockey all the time because there were all these interesting little what-ifs that the NBA has every hour, it's crazy. It's got to be better for the league.
You think movement would create more interest in the NHL?
It's not even a question
I
in
think
my
it's
mind.
proven across all
It's
sports.
not even a question in my mind. What if Sidney Crosby was always on the what if? What if he was on a 2-year deal with a player option? And every 2 years we had to talk about what's he going to do What's he going to do? Is he going home? Is he going back to Canada?
Hey, we live in a media world now where the off-season and the between the games discussion sometimes overwhelms the discussion of the games themselves.
I think the NHL will always be fourth. It's a great sport, by the way. A lot of great people working it, but I think it'll always be fourth because the barrier to play is great. The cost to play is great, and most of this country does not play hockey.
It's America.
Nor will they. Yeah. I think everybody can play basketball. They can go out right now and shoot hoops in the driveway. They can throw the pigskin around on Sunday, and they can bet on football, and they understand what they're betting on. I don't think they understand what they've been betting on in hockey, the way things you got to do it. And baseball, you can play catcher the kid, but when it comes to hockey, that's a tough one.
All of that is right, but they know that.
Yes, they do know that.
And money talks, man.
Money does talk.
Money is moving all the time. People are talking about it. People care about it. People see the game differently. They just do. I just think it's a really easy way to make the NHL more popular.
Well, to your point, I bet you more people in America know Wayne Gretzky than they do Sidney Crosby.
Yep.
And Wayne, listen,
and that's a problem.
Well, it is a problem.
Because Crosby's been great for about a decade.
Game.
Right.
He showed him at the Raptors game.
He went to the golf tournament. I lost my volunteer driver. Supposed to drive Wayne around.
Oh, yeah?
All day, yeah. He's like, I got to drive a VIP. I'm like, come on, who is it? He's like, it's Wayne. I'm like, oh, Gretz. He's like, you know Gretz?
Gretz. Here we go.
Listen to Gretz.
Listen, people worked in hockey. That's what he goes by, Gretz.
I'm calling him Mr. Wayne.
Last time I saw him on the course was at Riviera. I'm like, hey, Gretz. Hey, I know you, don't I? I'm like, yes, you do. I work with Danny Gary. Oh, that's right. Tell Tix I said hello.
Come on, that's got to be his go-to. I know you, don't I?
No,
that's my go-to.
You know what?
At weddings and stuff.
I will tell you what. You'll never find a more genuine superstar, greats of all time than Wayne Gretzky.
I believe that.
He is a down-to-earth guy.
Does he have investment in the Raptors? Is he involved at all?
I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be
a
smart
great
move,
question.
Huh?
It'd be foolish not.
I'm guessing they asked everybody, right? Back in the day,
I would think so.
Yeah, I
right?
would think so too.
I mean, no, Wayne Gretzky's he's you know what? And he'd talk to any fan that way. He really is a genuine guy.
Nice.
All right, so hopefully we haven't lost everybody.
Yeah,
hang on 1 second.
We'll go back to a little football.
Let me tell you something about football real quick. Dynasty owner. All right, this is for football. All right. Matter of fact, we had more movement. Maybe Dynasty owner will move into hockey here soon here. But Dynasty owner, make sure you get in for their upcoming 2019 beta draft. This is where you don't just trade players for players. You can trade for Dynasty dollars. You're the GM and coach when it comes to Dynasty owner. And I love this part, right? Percentage of your bench performance counts that week. So you don't have to worry about missing out on someone's unbelievable performance. And who the hell, thought that guy would have a great game against Richard Sherman. But listen, you get bench points, a percentage of that. So that's great. You can also go over the salary cap like we were talking about here. You're going to pay for it, though. There's a luxury tax fine. It's the first game to combine week-to-week fantasy sports with long-term ownership and GM strategy. Don't just play fantasy sports. Own it. Go to dynastyowner.com. That's dynastyowner.com. Sign up for that 2019 beta draft.
All right. So you've headlined this as the average Colts. Now, a Colts fan living in the Midwest in Indiana might be mad to hear that, but it's actually a compliment, isn't it?
Yeah, are there Colts fans who live anywhere else, or still some Baltimore fans maybe?
Sure there are. There's some Peyton Manning fans in Tennessee and things like that, Colts fans.
Yeah, this is a little play on words. We've talked about the Colts. I think we're all pretty high on the Colts right now in 2019.
Well, their management of the cap has been pretty incredible, right?
Yeah, that's the line to take away right now, and I've tweeted it out before. They are the fourth highest favorites to win the Super Bowl right now, and they still have $57 million in cap space. They're leading the league in cap space. They're the fourth favorites to win the Super Bowl. I'm not sure they're done. I mean, look it's June. The Patriots probably have 4 more trades in them still, right? Knowing how they operate. So there's going to be some movement here. We're still going to see some cap casualties in the summer here.
And it's important.
There's room to be done here.
It's important to note, based upon our conversation we just had in hockey and NBA, like NBA and NFL, they get their labor, on-field labor, on-court labor from television contracts. They don't have to worry about that.
That's right. That's right.
So, that's why their cap's so high, and they'll spend the money because they're already getting the money.
They
right?
are.
They'll get incredible grief if they don't spend the money.
They are, and there's a floor in the NFL as well, which we talk about often, but I wonder if this season specifically is going to raise some eyebrows because there's just so many teams with cap space still. Literally. We're in the middle of June, and you could there are probably 15 teams that could sign a legitimate all-star right now,
right?
Because of the cap space.
Well, isn't that why the union has said, guys, start saving your money?
Right,
because the union's going to fight for these teams to spend the money.
Either spend it or there's going to be a big pushback, right?
Yeah,
this cap is going to drop, which would be just a mess. I can't even imagine teams having to clean up that mess of a lower cap.
Wow.
When they projected otherwise, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think it gets there. That just seems too negative.
But they get guidance. Get guidance
for a very image-conscious league. That's way too negative.
They get guidance from the league. On, hey, this is where the cap we project. Years out. Like, it's not like, hey, by the way,
remember you got TV contracts coming up in the next 2 to 3 years
too. The streamings are going to be big,
for the NFL.
Big.
To think that the cap is not going anywhere but continuing to climb seems a little crazy.
Well, especially in the world of streaming, where there's other avenues for revenue, right? Where fans are going to pay to see games, right? I mean, it's going to come from you, the fans, whether you buy a ticket or not. There's going to be enhancements to watch a game, so on and so forth.
Speaking of paying. Here's how I like to do it this time of year. We have a really nice tool called the positional breakdown tool, which basically takes all the money and all the teams from a cash or a cap standpoint, combines it positionally, right, or positional groupings, essentially, so the offensive line, the secondary, right, that kind of thing. And we do it by team, by position, in a nice big table format. And, it's cool to see who's spending the most and who's spending nothing. The Bills have 3 quarterbacks at $3.5 million right now. It's pretty funny.
That's incredible.
Yeah, lowest in the league, but... where I like to look is the line, and we draw the line at the average. We show the averages because it's just been sort of that thing. It's that trend over the years that if you're sort of close to the average with all these, right, across the board, the quarterbacks and the wide receivers and your lines and your secondary, if you're sort of par for the course in the league with your spending, with your cash spending, you're going to be in a pretty good spot late in the year. It just sort of lends itself to you're balanced, you've got some depth. You really haven't put your eggs too much into one basket, so you can handle a couple of injuries. It's just, it makes sense. It's logical that sort of works out. So it's early, and we're still at 90-man rosters right now, so the cash is a little bit jaded, but we'll continue to monitor this, as we get down into the 53s and then obviously through the season. But as it stands right now, big surprise, the Patriots are in 3 of these categories.
Right? Yeah, right, yeah.
Big surprise. They're middle of the road for the quarterback right now until Brady gets his new deal. They're middle of the road at the wide receiver position, which I actually thought was shocking.
No, I'm not shocked at all.
Really?
Because Brady. But now we know why.
No, wide receivers though.
But I'm saying because we know why why they're quarterback because of Brady. But Brady elevates the level of the receiver, so they have never really been inclined to go spend a lot of money on wide receivers because they don't have to. Because Brady will take a guy who ranks as a 4.5 on everybody else's scale and make him a 6.5.
They've actually been low though. In most years, under the average. So the fact that they're up to the average this year in the wide receiver.
So that's why you're surprised. I'm not surprised they're right smack in the middle. Yeah. I think which is the difference here.
Well, let me tell you why they were able to do
why
that.
did they step up then?
They've got no tight end money. None.
Okay.
There's no Gronk salary on there anymore. So they had to flex that money back into the wide receiver role, and they actually flexed a lot of back to the running back too. So they're real sort of top weapon heavy right now. We'll see what happens with the tight end position. I mean, the suspensions are killing them right now. I mean, it's going to be a rocky start to their season. We'll see how that. Obviously we'll be watching closely.
Yeah, but they've proven it's not not how you start, it's how you finish.
We'll see.
Yep.
Golden State's
and I know a guy
that
a lot of people thought could wind up there is Kyle Rudolph, just re-signed in Minnesota, so he is off the market as an option in New England again too.
No question.
By the way, you just figured he was waiting. I don't want to do mini camps.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of guys doing that right now.
Seriously. Hasn't anybody learned, or some are starting to learn from Bruce Smith? Bruce Smith back, and then when Paul and I would cover the Bills.
Ouch, my knee hurts.
Well,
that would be the first day of training camp, and then he would come back conveniently like 3 days before the last week, before the regular season started.
Everybody's worried about Bruce. We're not worried.
I think Favre just had it written into his contracts at the end of the year.
Right.
Like, I'll see you in August 20th.
They wouldn't hit. Like Marv Levy had a great. Trying the best way to say these guys don't need to play.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're going to roll them out there, and we're going to throw the ball out. These guys are so damn good, and that's why they're Hall of Famers. They don't need this stuff. And frankly, there's a lot of players in the NFL who don't need to show up for mini camps, right? I mean, it's almost like an insult. Come out, run around in your shorts. Let's make sure that you're staying in shape here. Come on.
I think the physical fitness part of it for sure, but I wonder with all the movement that the NFL has seen if that's a different conversation now. I wonder if because there's so many quarterbacks and new wide receivers and things like that, and new coaches, my goodness, all the time, you have to think there's more reason to go now, right?
Well, for playbooks and those sort of things.
I would think.
Depends on the position a little bit, I think, sometimes. But yes, you make a very good point. You would think, the Odell Beckham in Cleveland thing. He needs to be there. It's a new team. It's a new offense. It's a new coach. So, you could make the argument that he should be there. But then again, at that position, he's going to do what he does no matter what.
I was just going to say, you're the outside.
Pass rushing defensive end.
Hang on. Odell, you're the outside receiver. Go.
Yeah.
Okay. Run a button hook and go.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, can you run a square in and go? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Right?
Sometimes I think that whole thing is a little overrated. The whole timing thing. Great players are great players.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So the point to make here is, I added up all these averages. Right. You get to the point where you're going position by position across the board, and of course, the team closest to the average across all positions, Indianapolis Colts.
There you go.
Everything is looking rosy in Indy right now for the 2019 season.
Well, and it all depends on the quarterback.
Luck, so
right?
Isn't it funny that it could be like a bubble year for him?
Right.
If he's the bad cog in this gear, they could move on from him next year.
Sure.
Which is crazy. Jacoby Brissett in 2020.
That'll be interesting. I don't know if they'd run this. Well, why not run the same offense?
Yeah.
It works.
It's an
run more plays than everybody else. That's what they do.
It's an interesting, as we talk so much about trends here, to me that's a very interesting trend because the way they're going about it, which was very much a massive rebuild and gutting of a lot of spots on that team, and then going all in on the offensive line by drafting 2 players who are starters high, and what the Colts are doing, the approach the Colts are doing, not really being overly active in free agency, relying very much on the draft, is maybe something that other teams will have already started to some degree and will continue to should they have a lot of success this year. To me, it's a very interesting approach that they're going at. I think a lot of people would struggle to name a lot of Colts wide receivers and running backs right now, which belies the norm of the NFL. So again, they're not chasing a lot of big names. They've let a lot of big names go. Is that going to be enough to win?
We'll have to wait and see.
Right, but they have the luxury of having the quarterback in place, or the version 2 of the quarterback after the injury.
I want to close out the show here with. So okay, if I want to close out the show with something, Mike. U.S. Open odds, right? We have the U.S. Open this week, Pebble Beach. Here are the odds. Brooks Koepka 13-2.
What Koepka?
Right. 13-2.
That's still pretty good.
Yeah, Dustin Johnson 7-1. Tigers 10-1. Jordan Spieth 14-1.
Wow, why?
Here's the bet. I think this is good value. Rory McIlroy 16-1.
Yeah,
I just followed Rory McIlroy all weekend at the Canadian Open, and he was dominant in the wind when nobody else could. He just ripped the golf course apart. He's the best driver of the golf ball. He worked on wedges like crazy. It paid off. He putted great.
Why is he so low? Is it because of his major performances?
It has to be.
All right, here's the thing. So going into the final round, it was the 6th time out of his 11th time he's held or co-held a 54-hole lead.
Yeah.
11 times. He'd won 6 of the previous 10. He's 7 of 11. People are like, this guy's a choker. I'm like, are you kidding me?
No, shoot, 64-61. Is that what it was?
64-61.
He was going for 59, and I thought he was 9 under through 14 holes.
And you coughed, right?
Kevin got a phone call.
Believe me, I tried like hell to stay out of his way, man. Actually, on the 7th hole, I got stuck in the walkway behind the security guy, and I was 10 feet from Rory's 8-footer for birdie. And I told my producer, I'm stuck in a bad spot here. Because, we have to talk. So I said, when I go, that'll mean he just made contact. And he made the putt. I'm like, oh, thank God he made the putt. Because I was so close to Rory McIlroy. But anyway, if he hits the ball off the tee, he won that tournament with his driver. Okay? But there are other guys who can win. Pebble Beach, it's not the longest golf course.
It's an irons course, right?
But you do not have the winds off the ocean that you had. But here's the thing. Koepka, Thursday was the first time he picked up a club, really, since winning the PGA.
He barely tried in the Memorial.
And he Koepka is going to. I think it'd be great. He can be the first 3-time champion in a row of the U.S. Open. It'd be incredible. The guy's a killer.
Yeah, he's like Kawhi.
He is.
He takes his regular season off, and then when it matters, he just shows up.
Yes, he is, and I think 13-2 is
still decent.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Tiger has a great history on that course.
Yes.
Has played well. That course seems to suit
12,
him. Where do you figure does he have a chance?
I am going to do an exacta box on Koepka and Tiger.
I don't like Tiger physically again. I think there's something wrong.
Oh, I've been watching
something wrong.
Have you seen his practice sessions out there? He looks good.
I'm worried about four rounds in a row. I really am.
I'm not. He's been practicing a lot out there. I'm not.
You're taking Tiger over Rory?
Yeah.
In your exacta?
You know why? Well, here's my thing with Rory. I think it's so difficult to win back-to-back weeks. I think when you win something like Rory's special. There's no question. But to win,
you're right.
There's some fatigue. I mean, I'll tell you something. That course is a tough walk. Rory's in great shape, but that takes something out of you.
He's got some traveling now to do.
He's got traveling. I'm just saying, getting there, like all these people are going to be picking him, the focus. He'll be there. I think he'll be within the final 2 groups in the weekend. But I think Koepka's going to be there too, and that guy is just, I mean, how do you not pick Koepka until he gets beat in a major?
Man.
Right?
You can't.
He finished second at the Masters. He wins the PGA. He's the back-to-back U.S. Open champion.
All right. Final question. Why is Jordan Spieth 14-1 in anything right now?
Actually, Jordan's game has come on here as of late. Yeah,
but how? He can't put it together.
Yeah, but see, but I think because of the course, it's a wedge course. Yeah. Jordan's got a great wedge game. He's been putting better.
Yeah, so does Tiger, though.
Correct. That's why Tiger's 10-1.
Yeah.
That's what I just said. I'm exacta boxing.
So you think people can slow play this and win? That's what you think?
Oh no! I think you got to come out of the gate and play well early. Yeah, there's no slow playing here. These guys aren't going to slow play.
Doesn't it stink that it starts Thursday? We're going to be revved up for this basketball game, right?
Yeah.
Wait, is basketball Thursday or Friday? It's Thursday.
And
hockey's Wednesday. Basketball's Thursday.
But you know what's great? You've got it in prime time
Sunday night.
Yes,
the best.
Saturday because of the West Coast, sure.
Yes. Steaks for Father's Day and golf.
And what I think you'll see more of the majors going out west in the U.S. here. I think, obviously not the Masters, but I think you'll see the PGA move a little bit out west. I think the U.S. Open will stay out west because
it's been a good schedule this year. I like this a lot.
This new schedule,
I like
great,
this a
isn't
lot.
it?
Yeah,
it's
been more conducive to me.
Having a major every month is terrific.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, you go from this, you'll have the Open Championship soon, and then. Shortly after that, you've got the playoffs,
and you're mostly out of the way when the NFL starts.
Mostly,
right? And don't forget this: there's a new system. We're talking about money here. You have the FedEx Cup, right? You want to make the 125 to get in. The Wyndham Rewards for the Wyndham Championship.
Yeah, huge.
The top 10 after the Wyndham Championship gets paid out in Wyndham Rewards cash.
Hotel points.
No, to get more in hotel points. Who's ever number 1 in FedEx Cup standings, also number 1 in Wyndham Rewards standings, gets $2 million before the playoffs start.
Nice.
How good is that?
Nice.
That's good.
That's pretty damn good.
Yep.
So get your kids into golf. Keep them into golf.
Oof, don't do that.
Why not? It's a great game. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Spot Track podcast. Make sure you check out spottrack.com. Premium members, you get a premium experience at spottrack.com. So make sure you consider that. Tell your friends about Spot Track too. For Mike Giannetti, Paul Peck, I'm Kevin Sylvester. We'll talk to you next time.